Welcome to today's lesson. Today I want us to talk about one of the most interesting subjects, civic education, and to be precise, I want us to look at substance abuse as our topic for today. This is one of the issues that a lot of young people, even old people, are suffering from and experiencing. So without wasting much of the time, I would like us to go to the meaning of substance. Substance means material or type of matter. Abuse means use something wrongly. Substance abuse means taking something often that your body does not need for wrong reasons. Substance abuse also means a habitual use of a substance in excessive amounts that are harmful to the person consuming it. So, when you look at substance abuse, you are basically looking at taking something for wrong reasons. You are taking a substance even when the body does not need that substance. Now, we have classifications of substances. Now, substances are classified into two. We have those we call OTC, over-the-counter substances. These are substances which are easily bought over the counter and used for medicinal purposes such as Panadol, aspirin, Cafimol, Fansidar, and Vemox. So these substances, you can easily buy them even without the prescription of a pharmacist. The other classification is controlled substances. Now, these substances can be obtained if one has a prescription. So these substances can be dangerous if not used properly. That is why they need a prescription from a pharmacist. So morphine, Valium, Mandrax, Pethidine, cocaine, codeine, and marijuana are some of the controlled substances that you cannot just buy without a prescription. So it is very important that you follow prescriptions when buying these controlled substances like the examples we've given. Now let's get to classifications of substances according to their effects. So those ones we are talking about, over-the-counter and controlled substances, are general classifications. Now here we are now looking at classifications of substances according to their effects. And the first classification we're going to talk about are depressants, which are also known as sedatives or hypnotics. Now, what are these depressants? Now, depressants are substances that slow down the action of the central nervous system or the brain. So when you take a depressant, the action of the central nervous system or the response of the central nervous system or the brain is going to be slowed down. So they are also known as, sedatives or hypnotics, like already highlighted there. So when taken in small amounts, they decrease a person's awareness or tension. But when taken in large amounts, they lead into a coma, a condition of deep unconscious, or rather a condition of deep unconsciousness, which may result in death. Examples include alcohol, Mandrax, and Valium. Those are examples of depressants. So when someone takes Mandrax or when someone takes alcohol, you expect them to have a slowed down response. The brain is going to be slowed down, the central nervous system is going to slow down. Those are the depressants, sedatives, or hypnotics. Now, let's get to another classification, which is known as stimulants. Now, stimulants are basically substances that stimulate the central nervous system and speed up the body processes. So for these, when taken in large amounts, they become depressants because their effects slow down the central nervous system. So only if you take stimulants in excess or in large amounts, then they become depressants because they, their effects slow down the central nervous system. The most common stimulant is caffeine, found in tea, coffee, chocolate, Coca-Cola, and other energy drinks such as Kung Fu, Red Bull, Dragon, Combat, and all sorts of energy drinks that you can think of. We have a wide range of those. So caffeine basically acts as a stimulant, but you take it in excess, it can, turn into a depressant. So caffeine is actually derived from a German word Kaffee, meaning coffee. It is obtained from certain plant leaves, beans, fruits, and can be processed into different forms such as powder, liquid, or smoke. So when caffeine is consumed excessively, it leads to convulsions, lack of sleep, and excessive anxiety. So it also it can also tend to stimulate the central nervous system very much. So other stimulants that you can cite as examples include cocaine and nicotine, other than caffeine itself. Cocaine and nicotine. So these are some of the stimulants that you are familiar with. Some of them, perhaps you might even have them in your house. Hallucinogens. That is the third classification of substances according to their effects on the body. Hallucinogens. Now, what are these hallucinogens? Hallucinogens are substances which distort the way the brain translates impulses or messages from sensory organs. So what that means is that they distort or they affect or change the way the brain, operates and the way the brain interprets messages. So they alter or change messages about something real, thus producing an illusion. You start imagining things which do not even exist. So the brain may produce images with no basis, called hallucinations. You start imagining things. And these substances, in this category include lysergic acid diethyl, LSD, cocaine, magic mushroom, ecstasy. These are hallucinogens that will make a person to start seeing danger where there is no danger. Where there is, danger, they start seeing safety. So hallucinogens are quite powerful substances that can affect one's, brain in the way it interprets messages. One can even jump out of a car perceiving a tree is falling on that car when it is not even the true case. So that is someone abusing lysergic acid diethyl, LSD. Magic mushroom, very, very powerful, very, very potent. Magic mushroom, so potent hallucinogen. Other than magic mushroom, you can talk about ecstasy. That is another hallucinogen which is highly potent, dangerous. Let's get to narcotics or opiates. That's another classification of substances, narcotics or opiates. Now, these are substances that make the senses dull and relieve pain by depressing the cerebral cortex. Now, the cerebral cortex is the outer layer of the brain responsible for consciousness, including perception, memory, learning, and initiation of movement. So they also affect the thalamus, mood regulation center. So narcotics are mainly derived from the opium poppy plant. I'm sure some of you are familiar with the opium poppy plant, from which we, derive or make narcotics or opiates. So they include raw opium, morphine, codeine, pethidine, methadone, as well as heroin. Opium poppy plant looks like that when it is being grown. It looks like that when it is ready for harvest. So once the opium poppy plant has been harvested, it can go through a very simple process of heroin production, where, when it is harvested like that, they just boil the opium. Raw opium is boiled to remove plant matter, creating morphine. Then morphine is combined with some acid and heated. Then the finished product is heroin powder. Codeine. Now, codeine is one of the key. It happens to be one of the key substances that are mostly abused by young people, and this substance is quite dangerous. Morphine is another substance, methadone is another substance, so we have quite a number of hallucinogens that are abused by a lot of young people. Inhalants. Now, inhalants, those of you who pass through the streets of cities and towns, I'm sure you've come across a lot of young people inhaling some substances, inhaling glue, inhaling gas, and so forth. You find that these substances are drugs that are found in household products such as glue, deodorants like perfume sprays, as well as fuel gases. So these form fumes which give out vapor that is inhaled by the consumer, and the capillary surface of the lungs allows quick absorption of such substances. So entry into the brain is very fast and intoxicating effects are intense. That is why when someone inhales these solvents or inhalants, the effect is quite rampant. It doesn't even take time. Someone will be able to feel the impact, and you can even be able to see. And these inhalants cause brain damage and death at times. Now, let's get to substances and their effects. Substances and their effects. Now, substances can also be classified according to their effects on the user as follows. Alcohol. Now, alcohol happens to be, a champion in as much as being abused is concerned. Why? This is one of the most available substances. You can find it anywhere. Just by that, liquor store by the corner, you'll be able to access alcohol. So this is one of the most abused substances. Now, alcohol is a pure colorless liquid present in drinks such as beer, wine, and brandy. People take alcohol for pleasure during many occasions such as leisure, initiation, traditional and wedding ceremonies, sometimes when you're watching a game between Chelsea and Man U. So basically, alcohol is that substance. Now, only adults can drink alcohol, but in modern society, beer is abused even by children, which is a shame. Now, alcohol is also taken for medicinal purposes, if you did not know. Most of the medicines contain a percentage of alcohol. Alcohol abuse is when one drinks too much alcohol too often. This leads to addiction. Addiction is taking something that one cannot stop. So, a person who is addicted to alcohol is called an alcoholic. So, alcoholism is a severe and potentially fatal, causing death condition caused by physical dependence on alcohol. It impairs physical and mental health. So the strength of any alcoholic beverage depends on the percentage concentrate of a chemical called ethanol per given volume. So the amount of ethanol in that beverage will determine how potent or the percentage concentration, in that beverage. Now, the higher the percentage, the more potent or strong the beverage becomes. In other words, the more effects it has to an individual. So if the percentage of alcohol in that beverage is very high, even the effects on that individual will be severe. I'm sure some of you are familiar with these beverages, such as Mosi Lager. It has a percentage of about 4.5 of ethanol. Castle Lager 5%, Black Label, Kachasu, Chugoku wine, spirits, Orson's Lager, all those. If you look at Kachasu is I don't know even how you can describe it. It is too potent. It is highly potent. Imagine the percentage of alcohol ranging from 25 to 65%. So if you take a chansu, you can imagine how much damage you're causing to your body. Now, what are the effects of alcohol? Now, alcohol increases blood pressure as well as heartbeat. Other than that, it also causes violent behavior. When some people take alcohol, they want to become like Mike Tyson. They want to exercise. They want to show that they can fight, even when they don't even have some strength to do so. Other than that, alcohol also affects the brain. It distorts the one, actually where one thinks, speaks, as well as acts. Other than that, it also causes cirrhosis. Now, the liver becoming fatty and enlarged, causing inflammations. Now, when you take too much alcohol, you're going to have cirrhosis, which is a condition where the liver becomes fatty and enlarged, causing inflammations. Other than that, alcohol also causes hypothermia, which is feeling warm even when one is losing heat. Alcohol also distorts perception of time and space and have a double vision and clear objects. You start seeing, objects using a double vision. That is why, of offenses is driving under the influence of alcohol. That is why they discourage that, because when you're driving under the influence of alcohol, you can easily cause an accident because you have double vision. Other than that, alcohol also causes withdrawal condition, which is known as delirium tremens, DTS. A person with DTS is shaky and cannot hold anything in their hands. Such a person has a mental problem. He or she may experience mood swings and uncontrolled behavior. So I'm sure you've come across some people who cannot even hold a piece of paper. They'll be shaking unless they take alcohol. That is when they'll be able to stop shaking. So these are some of the beverages that I'm sure some of you are so familiar with and perhaps have even taken. Now, away from alcohol, the other commonly abused substance is tobacco. Now, tobacco is made up of some chemicals which are poisonous when one smokes as it enters the bloodstream. It is a commonly abused substance that contains nicotine, carbon monoxide, and tar. Those are the three dangerous substances that you find in tobacco: nicotine, carbon monoxide, as well as tar, and they are very harmful to the body. Now, carbon monoxide is a deadly gas that affects the blood's ability to carry oxygen around the body. So you see what you're doing to your body if you abuse tobacco. You are making your blood's ability to carry oxygen around your body very difficult. Now, tar contains a few substances that can cause cancer. That's why smoking happens to be one of the causes of cancer. Nicotine is also a powerful drug that makes the heart beat faster. So you're more likely to have a heart attack if you abuse tobacco. So if taken in large doses, nicotine slows nerve impulses, resulting in reduction of heartbeat. So constant smoking affects the cells in the respiratory tract, thereby making the smoker easily get respiratory infections. So that is basically tobacco. I'm sure we have all seen tobacco before. This is a plant. So you see young people abusing tobacco. So just by looking at this image, you can be able to tell how dangerous tobacco can be. Now, aside from that, I would like us to go to inhalants. Now, inhalants, I already talked about them. As earlier stated, inhalants are a diverse group of substances that include volatile solvents as well as gases. Now, the volatile substances are found in household products such as glue, paint, nail polish, powdered tobacco, petrol, rubber, lighter fluid, and so on. So inhalants are usually sniffed from an open container, and lungs allow rapid absorption. As a result, entry into the brain is fast and produces intense intoxicating effects. So when you talk about inhalants, you're talking about all those household products from which you can get the gas which you can sniff. Effects of inhalants include depression of the central nervous system, reducing breath rate, causing high blood pressure, BP, headache, nausea, slurred speech, loss of motor coordination, rash around the nose and mouth, unpredictable behavior, memory impairment and attention deficit, liver and kidney abnormalities, red, glassy and watery eyes, distortion in perception of time and space. Now, can someone guess our next drug or substance commonly abused just by looking at that plant? Does this look like some reddish vegetable you can eat? Now let's find out. Cannabis. Now cannabis, this is a hard brown material or herbal mixture that comes from cannabis plant. So we grow these plants. If you have noticed, all the substances we have talked about are coming from a particular plant we grow. We just talked about where heroin comes from, the opium poppy plant. We just talked about tobacco coming from the tobacco plant, cannabis coming from the cannabis plant. So this is an illegal drug in most of the countries around the world, and in Zambia it is illegal as well. Therefore, possession, cultivation or trafficking of this substance constitutes an offense. So it has several street names such as draw, blow, weed, hash, pot, ban, spliff, dope, double puff, shit, ganja. So people call it different names. So we have three main forms of cannabis, and the first form of cannabis is marijuana. Now marijuana comes from dried leaves, flowers or stems of cannabis plant. It has a concentration of delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol THC of about 0 to 12%. Take note of those percentages. Take note of those percentages. So marijuana has a THC percentage of 0 to 12. Then the other category of cannabis is hashish. Now hashish is made from the dark, sticky resin of the plant and contains THC of about 12 to 18%. 12 to 18% of tetrahydrocannabinol. Hashish oil. Now hashish oil is made by compressing hashish to produce oil using a solvent. The concentration of THC is about 18 to 25% and is much higher than that of marijuana and hashish. So that is hashish oil. It is the most potent form of cannabis, 18 to 25% of THC. Hashish oil, that is hashish oil. So you see the effects of cannabis: causing cravings for certain foods, increasing appetite, making most users relaxed and talkative. If they will start telling you stories that do not even exist, they become too talkative, those who abuse cannabis. Others, they tend to be paranoid and anxious depending on their mood or situation. That is why cannabis are considered to be an all-round drug. Causing health problems such as cancer and respiratory disorders, you see, affecting the reproductive system by reducing sperm count in males, while irregular menstrual cycles in females are also quite common. A lot of young people also have memory and coordination problems, leaving users feeling exhausted. You are just tired. so tired. These are young people abusing, cannabis. Now, aside from that, heroin. Now, heroin is another highly abused substance. Now, heroin is a brown or white speckled powder made from juice extract from the unripe capsule of the poppy plant. Remember, I showed you the poppy plant, the opium poppy plant, from which we get the heroin. So the seed capsule of the green opium produces a milky juice, latex, from which many drugs can be made, such as morphine, mandrax. All those can be made from opium poppy plant. So morphine is used for medicinal purposes. Heroin is mainly taken by smoking, sniffing, or swallowing, as well as injecting into the veins. So there are several ways in which you can, take heroin. It is known on the streets as brown sugar, skag, smack, and horse. Now, what are the effects of heroin? Now, heroin depresses some brain cells or stimulates other types of brain functions, leading to disturbed pattern of nerve activity and perception. Loss of appetite is one of the common effects. Chronic constipation, death due to overdose, urge to commit suicide, irregular menstrual cycles in women, suppressing understanding of the real world by distorting vision, hearing, and other senses, loss of alertness at first, then drowsiness and drunken appearance later. I'm sure those are the people that some of you have come across with. Someone is just from waking up early in the morning and they're looking drunk. Come afternoon, evening, same situation. They're looking drunk throughout. Damages the heart and kidney, causes mood swings. All these are effects of heroin. Transmission of diseases such as HIV and AIDS by sharing hypodermic needles, especially when they're using them for injecting. So you are 3, 4, or 5 guys trying to abuse heroin using one needle. That is the way diseases can be transmitted. Like this person. Now, let me take you to cocaine, another mostly abused substance. Now, cocaine is a white powder made from leaves of a coca plant. Leaves of a coca plant, when chewed, can relieve hunger and fatigue. The coca plant is mainly grown in coastal plains of the Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean islands, Jamaica, Haiti, and so on. Now, effects of cocaine. Cocaine causes irregular menstrual cycles, transmission of diseases such as hepatitis and HIV and AIDS using hypodermic needles, over alertness and elevation of mood, dry mouth, sweating, severe weight loss, exhaustion and lack of sleep or simply insomnia, digestion problems, ulceration of the nasal passage, heart and blood circulation problems, death due to overdose, and so on. So those are some of the effects that you can talk about that come with cocaine abuse. So this is a young person abusing cocaine by sniffing. Very sad. You can say a drug is any substance which alters the chemistry of the body and affects the natural balance of the mind and emotions. That is how you define a drug. A drug is any substance which alters the chemistry of the body and affects the natural balance of the mind and emotions. So drugs can either be natural or synthetic chemicals. So natural drugs are those which are found in certain plants. For example, caffeine in coffee, nicotine in tobacco, tetrahydrocannabinol. Whereas synthetic are those drugs manufactured such as Panadol, aspirin, as well as Cafimol. Now, let's look at the general effects of drug. Increase in crime rate. It interferes with the normal life of a person. It leads to legal problems. You find yourself in problems where they're taking you to police, courts here and then. It normally causes distress, leads to decreased productivity. Instead of focusing on working, you focus on chasing drugs. It can also lead to memory loss. It can cause healthy problems. So I would like to thank you for your time. Stay glued to the channel for the next part of substance abuse. Stay blessed.